Okay, so TOEFL writing, independent writing questions. How to structure a a TOEFL writing independent question. So generally, when we write a essay response for an exam in English, we need good structure, good organization. That's the most important thing. So we start out with paragraph structures. We need separate paragraphs. So the first paragraph will be an introduction paragraph. Let me make this bigger so that we can see. The next paragraph should be what's called a body paragraph. We want at least 2 of those. So we'll put it in there twice. You could go up to 3 or even more. But generally in the TOEFL, because of the limited time constraints, you will probably only want 2, maximum of 3 body paragraphs. Okay, so in the introduction, what makes up the introduction? Well, first things first, we want to restate the question, okay? So basically, when they give you a question, for example, like this one right here, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Parents are the best teachers. This is an example question for a TOEFL independent writing response. This is the question. We want to restate the question first, okay? So that could be something like, the question is, parents are the best teachers, yes or no, right? Very simple. So we can just say, there are, oops, I wanted that italic, there are many who believe that parents make the most ideal teachers. So this is an area, a time, a moment, where you can show off your ability to paraphrase, right? So you want to paraphrase here, okay? Paraphrase the question. Paraphrase means say the same thing with different words. You don't want to get too weird, like parents, turning parents into guardians or parental caretakers. Keep the simple ones simple, but we can change we can change best to most ideal, and that'll feel good for the person reading it. Okay, so that's the first step to the introduction. Restate the question. Just make it clear that without reading the question, we know just by reading this part of the response what's happening, right? Next, the other part of the introduction will be what we call a thesis statement, okay? A thesis statement, that just means basically your opinion, your stance, your point of view, right? Your argument in response to this question, right? So your thesis statement is going to say how you feel, what you're going to argue, and how you are going to argue it. So, for example, if I choose to say parents are not the best teachers, that's what I choose to argue. Okay, I will say in my thesis statement, in fact, right, because we're continuing from here, we're saying many people believe parents are the most ideal teachers, and I'm going to say, ooh, no, no, no. In fact, this is not true, right? And then we can continue to say why. Why do I think that parents are not the best teachers? And we're going to come back to that in a second, okay? So this is the thesis statement, and the thesis statement needs to lead into the body paragraph, okay? So body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2. We're going to have at least 2 arguments that we are making to support this belief, okay? So argument 1, I might say, parents are not the best teachers. Why not? Parents are too busy to teach their children. This is what I just thought of in this one moment, right? I'm just looking for a general idea that supports what I think, something that is logical and something that has more details to come, right? Parents are too busy to teach their children, right? Why? They have jobs, right? Why else? Other children, right? Other siblings, right? I'm just thinking of possible arguments. Okay, it doesn't have to be strong. Remember, this is an exam of your English level. It's not an exam of your ability to argue this question, right? So whatever comes to mind, really, because your planning stage needs to go fast. Okay, so paragraph 1, point 1, parents are too busy. Point 2, why else would parents not be the best teachers? I don't know. Let me think. Parents are the best teachers. No, they're not, because parents are too closely related to their children to see their learning objectively. Okay. So I think maybe they can't judge properly because many parents think my child is the best, right? So that's what I'm going to say. Okay. So now we know what our how is going to be here in the thesis statement, right? We understand what we are arguing, how we are arguing that parents are not the best teachers, right? I don't have any opinion really about this, if you haven't noticed, right? I don't know if parents are the best teachers or not. That's not important. I chose what I thought would be easier to argue and quicker, and that's it, okay? So my thesis statement now is going to involve these two main points. Okay, so my thesis statement will be, what are we going to make it? In fact, this is not true. Parents are often too busy to provide sufficient instruction to their children, and they can also be too closely involved with their children to see their learning objectively. All right. So there's our introduction, right? We can take this. Oops, I don't want to remove it completely. No. Take this. And here's our introduction starting there. And our thesis statement here. And then we have an introduction. Look at that. Booyah. Okay. Body paragraph 1. What does a body paragraph have? It needs a topic sentence. Okay. A topic sentence is essentially just restating this from here. We do a lot of paraphrasing to be very clear, very easy to understand. Anytime that you feel like you're saying something again, don't worry. It's okay, because we need to set the scene for every paragraph. This paragraph, we need to understand, right, we're going to talk about this part of the introduction. So the topic sentence basically paraphrases, restates again what is going on in terms of that. So the topic sentence might be, for example, in current days, with many families where both the father and mother work full-time jobs, in current days with many families where both the father and mother work full-time jobs, It is nearly impossible for parents to find time to teach their children. All right? So I'm setting the stage. I'm going to give examples next, okay? So that's the topic sentence. This is what we're talking about. This is me making a claim, and now I have to back it up. We call that supporting evidence, okay? So the next step is supporting evidence, where I give an example. I give a specific occurrence in the real world, or if I can't think of a specific example, I can give a general one, okay? But preferably, we want concrete, solid, real examples from our lives that we can recall, because this is an independent response, so we don't have anything to work from but our own brains. So we're thinking about families where both the father and mother work full-time jobs. Okay, so again, it doesn't need to be real. It needs to be believable. I personally cannot, right in this moment, think of a specific example of this. I probably could, but my mother didn't work. She was at home. She could have taught me, but I had plenty of friends who didn't. So I can always say, for example, in my childhood, I had many friends whose parents were only home in the evenings after long work days. Okay, so here's a specific example supporting evidence, right? Okay, those parents were not in the mood, nor did they have the energy to teach their kids after working all day. All right, there's our evidence. Okay, great. Good example there. Feel good about that. And so next, we want to connect that evidence very clearly, to everything else. And that is called analysis, okay? We want to make a connection. We want to spell out very clearly what the connection between this example and what we're talking about is, right? What is that? What is the connection, okay? So, for example, in my childhood, I had many friends whose parents were home in the evening, right? And I can just say, using the words from the thesis statement or from the question, I can say clearly, these parents were not the ideal teachers for their children, right? Just simple as that. Okay, analysis can be really complex, it can be fancy, or it can just basically be saying A plus B equals C, therefore, right? Obvious conclusion, obvious thing there, right? I can add on to it though, if I want to, expound, if I want to continue on with this, I can say something to the effect, for example, these parents were not ideal teachers for their children. The teachers, the school teachers, whose job it was to dedicate their time to these children, were, in fact, the most suited. Suited is like ideal or fitting. Most suited instructors. Synonyms. Work on knowing synonyms. Synonyms are always good. We're in the most suited instructors for them. Or just the most suited instructors. Booyah! Okay. And then that's more or less going to be our first body paragraph. How easy is that? Right? You don't have to do it with this weird copy and paste thing. I'm trying to do this to show you, in general, the step-by-step organization of all this. You would probably want to make all of this at once without this extra step, at least if you're actually in the exam and you are pressed for time, right? So here's our first introduction paragraph and a body paragraph. Okay. Another step of a body paragraph, if it's fitting and you hope that you find a way to do it, is a conclusion or a linking sentence. Okay, so that's a sentence that concludes the argument or links into the next one. Okay. Sometimes that's natural and easy, sometimes it's not. I generally like to have just kind of a natural conclusion. I think here the school teachers whose job it was to dedicate their time to these children were in fact the most suited instructors. I think that's good enough. Conclusions, generally, when you're pressed for time, should be an afterthought. So we'll get to that. But yeah, so anyways, body paragraph 2 is going to be much the same. Parents are too closely related to their children to see their learning objectively. Okay, so we're going to just do this from here this time. Topic sentence, right? So, in addition to their lack of free time, many parents are not, or are incapable, not able, right? They can't, right? Many parents are incapable, many parents can't, incapable of viewing their child through an objective lens. Okay, that's a very idiomatic kind of way to say this. What I'm saying is, right, they can't see their child objectively. They see them subjectively with lots of emotions, right? Okay, so I kind of handled the linking here, right? And here's our topic for this paragraph. So my supporting evidence needs to be about helicopter parents, right? This is a term that we have. They're called helicopter parents, like this, okay? That means they hover, right? They're always near their child. They're always making sure that nobody does anything bad to their child, blah, 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 right? So we're going to say, in addition to their lack of free time, many parents are incapable of viewing their child through an objective lens. Many of these parents, often called helicopter parents, many of these parents, often called helicopter parents, connect, like they connect their identity to their children, right? In an unhealthy way that clouds their judgment of their child's real progress, right? Now we analyze. Well, this is more still general. Again, I would like to be more personal, but I'm running out of time, so I'm going to leave it at this and just analyze it. Okay, or maybe maybe just kind of try to get a little real by saying these parents can often be seen at youth sporting events and parent-teacher conferences, arguing child who they see as perfect in every way. That was more than just a little extra detail, but sorry. We'll keep going. We gotta finish up real quick here, but we can do that. These parents can often be seen, right? Okay. Many of these students connect their identity to their children in an unhealthy way that clouds their judgment. The ability, here's the analysis, the ability to see a child's learning and progress as objectively as possible is very important to the teaching process. And therefore, these parents would be ill-suited for teaching their own children. There's the analysis, and therefore children's an objective school teacher will always provide a better learning experience in these circumstances. All right, done. That's it. And now the conclusion. We wrap up, we summarize. Okay, conclusion is to summarize, right? That's all you gotta do. Summarize, aka paraphrase your main points, okay? And then you're done, okay? Parents generally do not make the best teachers. Whether it be due to a lack of availability or an big word, overzealousness. That's a word, right? Isn't it? Thought that would be a word. Maybe you have to hyphen it. Oh my goodness. Whether it be due to a lack of creativity or caring too much. School teachers are the better option when it comes to a child's learning. Done! And there you go. There's an essay in what, 25 minutes? Something like that. 23 minutes. That's all it takes. Intro, body paragraph, etc.